Okay, hi everyone.
Hello.
I'm Aaron, and this is Dave. And welcome to our first Eigen seminar. So today we are going to be covering tweaking the sampler instruments using bel canto. So Dave is going to give a kind of quick tutorial. Well, not quick, it's going to be about 20 minutes on how that is done. You can communicate with us via the chat on the Justin TV. Any kind of bel canto commands and stuff, I will also input to the Justin TV chat so you can see them for yourself. You can also go to our wiki where there is diagrams for today's tutorial. I've just posted that in there now. So I think we're ready to go. Just make sure you have your alpha up and loaded in, and your quick start. Your quick reference guides to hand. And Dave, over to you. If you want to also any questions as we go along, or if Dave's going too quickly, or you just want something explained in a bit more detail, do put that in the chat. But we will have a Q&A section at the end of today's kind of tutorial. So if you've got any other burning questions that aren't relevant to this, do put those in then, and then we'll try and get to those later. The whole thing should last about an hour. Okay, cool.
Okay.
Go, Dave.
Alright, so what I'd like to talk about today is, so we've got the three different kinds of sounds we can use on the Eigenharp. We've got the audio unit and VST plugin, so you can load in any third-party plugin into the Eigenharp software, and it will host it, and then you can play the sound pretty easily on the keyboard. We've got our native instruments, which include things like the clarinet and the cello. So we've got the cello and the clarinet. We've also got a built-in synthesizer. But the third type is the sampler, which plays a type of file called the sound font. So you can load your own samples in and play these using the Eigenharp's keys. For ease of use, the audio units are great. There's obviously loads of sounds out there you can use. You can import them in, and you can use the graphical windows that come with each one, and you can connect all the controllers up. So that's fairly straightforward to use. But there's also the sampler that I'm talking about, and the samplers are great for getting the most out of the Eigenharp's keys. They respond to the full dynamic range. They respond to the resolution of the keys, which is a lot higher than the resolution of the keys is a lot higher than MIDI. So if you're going into an audio unit or you're going to MIDI out, you're restricted to 128 steps for every parameter. But the keys can actually do 4,000 steps for every axis. So using our sampler, you can take full advantage of this. You can take advantage of the independent pitch bend per key, so you can have two notes and you can bend them in opposite directions. You can have a different filter on each key. There's all sorts of things you can do using our samplers, and it's definitely worth looking at these if you haven't already. The thing with these, though, is you need to use the Eigen commander, and you need to learn a little bit of our language, which is bel canto, which is some commands you can type in the Eigen commander to tweak these sounds and customize them for yourselves. So I want to show you, I get asked a lot about things like, just useful things like changing pitch bend ranges, changing like the velocity sensitivity, editing like the envelopes of the sound. So I just thought it'd be a good first seminar to go through that. I'll talk a little bit about how the sample instruments are built, so the architecture inside EigenD. Any setup, so any Eigenharp set of sounds and scales, etc. Well, the inside of our software is a bunch of modules. So in the most basic alpha setup, there's about 400 different bits of software. We call them agents or modules running simultaneously. So I'm going to talk a little bit about which of these modules make up a sampler instrument, how that all works together. And then I'm going to talk about a little bit about using bel canto. So there's a couple of things we have to know in order to tweak some of these settings. And then I'm going to go through a few examples of just some useful things like changing pitch bend amount, changing some curves, just setting it up so it suits you. Okay, so first of all, there's some diagrams that I've quickly put together, which Aaron's every now and again going to put a link in on the chat window on Justin TV. So if you go and have a look at these diagrams, it will kind of help see what I'm talking about, especially in this little part. So I want to talk about, well, actually, first of all, I'm going to go through. So there's On the alpha setting, on the alpha setup, like the default setup, we have 4 sampler instruments. Hopefully you can see this. If I hold down the mode key, we've got 4 sampler instruments we can choose between. Sampler 1, this one at the top, is the piano. And this one, there's no pitch bend whatsoever. So if I wiggle the key, there's no change in pitch. All it is velocity sensitive. So it's the simplest of all the samplers. Sampler 2 has pitch bend turned on, but also this one's breath controlled. So I'm using the breath like a kind of volume pedal. So we've got. So I can do rhythmic things with my mouth. It's quite useful for adding expression. Also, there's pitch bend turned on this one. So we can do vibrato and this kind of thing. By default, that's a Rhodes. Sampler 3 is quite an interesting one because we're actually playing 2 sound fonts simultaneously, and we're using the left and right action of the keys to crossfade between the 2. So if I pull the key this way, my right, I've got a kind of a stringy sound. Put it the other way, it's a kind of like simply sawtooth sound. And I can crossfade between the 2, and that's independent for every key. So I can play 2 keys, and each one can have a different mix of these 2 sounds. That's the independent. So you've got all kinds of things going on. Sampler 4, this is the one we normally use for percussion. So I can access this from either here, or I can play it down on the percussion keys down here, or we can use the built-in step sequencer to play these. So that's normally used for percussion, but it doesn't have to be. And you may have noticed, if you've loaded the sound in there, that this has got a pitch bend range of 12 semitones, so an octave. It's difficult to hear the percussion sounds, but yeah, if I tip the key up and down, there's a pitch bend of an octave. All these...
Sorry, can you just turn the Eigenharp up a bit?
Yeah, sure. How about that?
That's better here.
Better, yeah?
If you need it any louder, just say and we'll turn it up a bit.
Okay. So we've got the 4 instruments. Each one of them can actually be customised and changed. So that's what we're going to do. So now would be a good time to look at this diagram. I'm going to talk through the different modules that make up the sampler instrument. So in every instrument inside the Eigenharp setup, it starts with a recorder. So it's an agent called a recorder. And the recorder collects all the information from all the different key groups. So it collects the key pressure, the key roll, the key yaw, the pedal information, the breath, the strip controllers. This all gets piped into the recorder, and then the recorder is obviously responsible for looping, so you can record and loop passages you play, but as well as that, it's responsible for sending the information out to the rest of the sampler instrument. So from the recorder, it goes to the scaler. The scaler collects all the information from the keys. So you've got key 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And without the scaler, that is really meaningless. So the scaler takes this information. So it says, if we're in C major, it says, okay, key 1, that's going to be C. Key 2 is going to be D. Key 3 is going to be E. So the scaler is responsible for taking the information from the keys and applying the notes to these keys. But the scaler does some other things as well. So the scaler is where we set the pitch bend range for every key. It's where there's 2 pitch bends that we can set. One's the pitch bend for individual keys, and the other is the pitch bend that, so let's use the piano. We've got the global bend, strip controller 1. So that's called the global bend, pitch bend. So that's the scaler. And then from the scaler, it goes to the cycler. The cycler is a little bit more complicated. That's responsible for allocating voices to the notes. We don't have to go into too much detail, but an example of what that does is on the piano, if you play lots of notes simultaneously, it could either allocate a new voice to every note, so you have kind of overlapping notes, or when you play a new note, it can cut off the one before and start another voice. I don't know if I explained that amazingly well, but that probably leave that for another lesson. And then from the cycler, it goes to the sampler oscillator. So the sampler oscillator is the agent that you load the sound fonts into. So that the sampler oscillator takes the information from the scaler and the cycler and says, okay, so you're playing an E, and it looks through the sound font, finds the right sample that is associated with the note E, and you also have different velocity layers within a sampler oscillator. So the piano, for example, that's included has 11 velocity layers. So depending on how hard you hit the key, it will choose a different sample, like so hit the key really gently and it will choose a sample which is a recording of the piano being played very quietly. Hit the key hard and it will choose a recording of a piano being played very hard. So the sampler oscillator, you load the samples into basically, and that's what actually makes the audio which can go out to the mixer. Okay, the AHDSR is the envelope. So this is what applies the kind of volume envelope or the volume contour to the sound. So with the piano, it's going to have a very steep attack and go down. For this pad sound note, it's got kind of more of a gentler attack. So the AHDSR, attack, hold, decay, sustain, release, is the envelope agent. And then from the sampler oscillator and the envelope for the AHDSR, it goes to a gain agent. The gain agent has two inputs. One is the audio coming from the sampler oscillator. The other is the volume. And the envelope's controlling the volume and the gain, so that's how it works basically. The audio goes in, it's got a volume input which the envelope controls, and then from the gain it goes out to whatever, it could be an effect or the mix or the audio output. Okay, so that's the very basic explanation of the structure of a sampler instrument. So the rest of the diagrams, all I've done is basically like each agent has its own page, and I've listed the outputs from that agent and where they're going. So if you're interested, if you want to have a little bit more of a look at this, you can kind of figure out on your own how it all connects together. Okay, so first thing, so I get asked these questions quite a lot about the samplers. The first thing I'm going to do is quite a useful and simple thing to do, which is change the pitch bend range in the keys. Okay, so the piano, no pitch bend whatsoever. Let's try turning the pitch bend range up to an octave or something. Okay, so we need to open the Eigen commander. If you haven't used this before, you go to Eigen D, go to the Tools menu. Well, this is on the new software. Go to the Tools menu and choose Run Eigen Commander. It will open a window for you. You'll see a lot of, well, in the top pane, you can see all the words that you can use when you're typing bel canto commands. Then there's two panes underneath. The left one is where you actually type in the commands, and the one to the right is the feedback, so it will tell you whether the command worked or whether it failed.
Sorry, Dave, what version of IND are you running?
Okay, so I'm using the testing versions, which are 1. Let me just double check so I don't get this wrong. So I'm running 1.1.19 testing. So when I say go to the Tools menu, actually that only applies to the testing releases. If you're using 1.0.14 or the stable release, you'll need to go to the drop-down menu in the top right of your screen. You click on there and you get the drop-down menu, and then it will say Eigen Commander. Click on that and that will launch the commander. And from then on it will be the same no matter what